good night, everyone. If you are seeing this slide, then you are watching the replay. So, welcome in. I am going to, before we jump on here, I'm just going to welcome you all and introduce our host so we can get right into the topic. So, our host tonight is Harrison Thompson. Our topic is the pain of rejection and how you may be causing it. Our focus of the month is conflict resolution, so this is right on target for our focus of the month. Harrison Thompson is a passionate therapist and relationship consultant that has mastered the complex art of helping people where they are. Holding a degree in psychology, Harrison has been counseling and assisting singles and couples for over 11 years in the Bahamas, where he was born. He is widely known for his edgy, viral videos on all matters associated with relationships, dating, and inspiration. These videos later awarded him a Bahamian Icon Award as the People's Choice Icon of the Year in 2016. He has worked with a multitude of government branches, organizations, colleges, universities, churches, and corporate businesses alike. He and his beautiful wife, Brittany Thompson, and daughter, Haley Rose, love to travel, vlog, and celebrate life together. So we are going to welcome our guest to the stage right now. Welcome, Harrison. Let me move over. Okay, good. Welcome. Before we begin, I just have to shout out our core team member. She's our new wives team lead, Nicolette Christina Smith, who is guarding Nikki in your house, who helped to get you on the stage tonight. So we're so grateful to you, Christina, for getting this awesome man of God, this awesome, amazing voice, this viral gentleman onto the platform tonight. So you go ahead and you take it away as we discuss rejection sensitivity.
Yeah, thank you so much, Semi. Thank you much, Nikki, for the connect. You are the plug. I think this is such a timely topic. And when I say timely, we live in a society right now where men's voices, or at least we don't have a lot of safe spaces for men to have voices in truth. Men have successfully internalized this idea that they have to be something else before they are allowed to simply be, right? And that's reinforced in the home. Whether we are told young boys don't cry, it's reinforced in school, how we are supposed to be. And so by the time we grow up into fully functioning adults, we know everything about what we shouldn't do, but we have little to no knowledge about who we are as men. But that doesn't mean that there's not the pressure there to still have to answer that question about what we're going to do. Where are we going next? When are we going to get married? Even something as simple as where are we going to eat? And how can a man be a leader if he doesn't have his own identity? And so a lot of times what happens is that man's identity issues becomes intertwined in the relationship issues. And because that woman has taken that man's lead and is entrusted into him the vision, the steps that we're going to take, if that man does not know who he is, how is he going to be able to lead the way in that relationship? And so sometimes women have had to disproportionately wear the weight of that irresponsibility, having to kind of raise a man or having to kind of train a man to become what it is she needs. But by the end of that process, what is actually left for her to enjoy or to even participate in? And so when I got the request to do a topic on rejection and male rejection in particular in marriage and in relationships, I was so happy because I think it's an opportunity to shed some light on an otherwise rarely spoken concept that a lot of men struggle with on a day-to-day basis, and that's rejection. And so we know that rejection is tough, right? As long as you have been living, we're going to have to deal with rejection. Whether that is rejection from family or friends, whether that is internalized rejection from maybe even a spouse, we're going to go through that, and that's going to be tough. But whether it is perceived or real depends on whether or not that person has allowed themselves to see the differences between their feelings and actuality. And so regardless of who you are, it's quite normal for any kind of rejection to disrupt intimacy, okay? This is why we struggle with being honest. Everybody talks about keeping it real. Everybody talks about being 100. But the fact of the matter is we live in a world where feelings matters more than what is true. If you do not believe me, picture something that you are terrified of, something that you have a phobia of, And it doesn't matter how much people give you information about how this thing is not something to be afraid of. If you are afraid of that thing, it doesn't matter what you tell me. I don't want to see it. And so oftentimes our response to fear is to try and add more knowledge to help relieve people of their feelings. But guess what? You have to deal with emotional issues emotionally. You cannot deal with emotional issues intellectually. And that's been one of the major core problems in relationships when it comes to how we deal with rejection. People often focus too heavily on the intention as opposed to the effect that my
Mm-hmm.
intentions had on the person. And you will realize when if you have been on the receiving end of someone who was trying to hammer home what they thought something was or what they were trying to do versus how it was making you feel,
Yeah.
you start to feel unseen, you start to feel invisible, you start to feel dismissed, and it almost kind of you start to question whether or not it even makes sense to kind of voice why you feel what you feel in the first place. And so rejection on its own is not necessarily what is truly damaging. Rejection is very disruptive, but rejection is not necessarily damaging. It's the inability to become aware of it happening and then dismissing its effect on your man that is truly damaging. Because we often look at the world as we look at ourselves. Well, if this didn't kill me, why is it killing you?
Mm-hmm.
If I was able to survive this terrible thing over here, how come you
Mm-hmm.
can't survive this less terrible thing over here, right? And so it's almost as though because I was able to survive something that I deem worse than what you're going through, you have no voice here in this conversation. And that is what is truly damaging. Because we know that women emotionally can tolerate a little bit more than men. So when women start to speak a little bit more truthfully and a little bit more in a raw sense about what it is that they're going through, that woman may not realize that she is damaging that man in ways that she cannot currently see. And so where women typically fear being unloved, men tend to fear being held in contempt, aka
Mm-hmm.
disrespected. Okay? If a man has to choose between being honest and being held hostage for what he is saying, um, he is going to choose his own freedom as opposed to what it is you're requesting of him. Okay? That's almost like 99.9% of what's going to happen every single time. And I'm sure we've all been in situations like this when maybe with a parent or a teacher, we have been coerced that this is a safe space, that nothing is going to happen. I just want you to be honest. And the minute that we are honest, we get punished for our honesty. And so we learn very quickly, I'm not doing this again. If this is what you're going to pay me back with honesty, I am just going to tell you what it is you want to hear, and I'm going to try and figure things out on my own. Okay? And that can be a very damaging environment to create, especially in our relationships. And so, this is why many men struggle having conflicts with their partners, because they are not sure if the conflict will be worth the risk of punishment. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Men often struggle wondering if the risk of honesty is going to be worth that perceived punishment. Why? Because men watch how you treat them. We watch how you have dialogue about other men. We watch how you dialogue with men in your family. And we remember how you have previously dialogued with us. So, what's going to be so different about this situation if historically this is what you've always done, right? Men don't forget. Yeah, women, y'all don't forget either. But men don't forget just as much as y'all. And so we got to understand that this is a dynamic that may be working against us, okay?
Mm-hmm.
So, this is mainly because men value the identification of logic before emotional expression. Doesn't that sound radically different than what women do? A man does not necessarily see the value in emotional expression until he has come to a place of understanding with his logic. This is why you find men tend to be very stoic when they don't understand something, because in their mind, I can't trust my feelings are appropriate in this situation. And so what happens is he's trying to get logic from a person, aka his wife or girlfriend, who values emotional expression first before the logic. So a woman values being seen for what she is hurting on. A woman values being validated on what she is going through. She doesn't care if it's wrong. She doesn't care if it's right. She doesn't care what's been happening. If you don't see me for what I'm feeling, she says, how you expect to get logic from me? But the guy says, I don't want to let my emotions come into play because I can't trust that if I say something I wasn't prepared to think about, that it won't be used against me in a court of law, right? And so, ladies, I hope you see that these small differences can either set the foundation for some serious argument or it can set the foundation for some serious conflict resolution. Okay?
I'm smiling because the girls already said in the chat in our private Facebook group that you're gonna gently be snatching our edges and you're gonna be here so calm and you're just gonna have us bald and wigless. And I'm like, yep, he's just snatching. He's just snatching. Go ahead, snatch.
Listen, we're going to take off all the split ends and we're going to cut off all those damaged pieces. But listen, we're going to put the oil on. We're going to apply the lock method. We're going to give the liquid, the oil, and then the cream or conditioner. We can get you straight. Sometimes you got to cut to grow. You know what I mean?
Cut to grow.
And so, unlike animals, right? Humans have the ability to develop their own identities and then determine whether they like that identity or not. Okay? Animals don't get to choose that. A dog is a dog, a cat is a cat, wolf is a wolf. But a human being can be what they decide to be. Now, this is extremely risky because the challenge to this is our other human capacity to cast judgment on what is and is not worthy to us. So, if I don't value something, my human capacity for judgment allows me to say something to that can totally reject that thing or experience as being valuable, or I can receive that experience as being valuable. Okay, we have to understand this when we're dealing with different people. And so what happens here is we tend to moralize our preferences. Okay, and moralizing our preferences is when we add this Jesus component to something it doesn't belong to. From something as simple as choosing Wendy's over McDonald's, we will try to moralize why my choice for Wendy's is better than your choice for McDonald's, or why my choice for quality time is better than your choice for quality time. And once we start to moralize our preferences, the goal is not to connect and build intimacy anymore. The goal is to guilt our partner into releasing what they want so that we can selfishly get what we want. Now, women, you got to understand that this concept is very serious for you. Because a lot of times women make the mistake of thinking that their desire for love trumps a man's desire for being respected. That is not true. These are equal things. When you have a desire for love, you're in the trenches, okay? You feeling that. That is not just something you can sleep off. That's just not just something you can go and work off in the gym. When you are hurt, that will consume you. And so a lot of times it's all you can think about, ladies. You're thinking about how this man has hurt you with his words, or how he's hurt you with not doing something, or how he's hurt you with forgetting or rejecting a part of what you wanted as insignificant. And it can consume you to the point where you make every single dialogue, every single interaction about the validation of that hurt. Okay? That can be very dangerous because the man that you're with doesn't necessarily think like that. And if you continue to moralize your preference for that validation first, how then does that man feel at the end of that debate? Well, he's going to feel defeated. He's going to feel broken. You start to wonder why that cliche of happy wife, happy life seems to hold weight, even though logically we know that's not how it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be happy spouse, happy house. But when we start to moralize one person's needs over another, someone has to lose. And when someone has to lose, that now becomes a part of your relationship history that you have to work through. That's what trauma is, guys. When we talk about relationship trauma, that's when we think we've resolved an issue, but all it really is us selfishly getting what we want over the other person. Okay? So this is why for any healthy relationship to survive, both parties must stop expecting themselves from their partner, because that request simply cannot be delivered. Okay? If you are a woman, that man will never quite feel the way you feel. Okay? And the minute you start to expect that that man should feel the way that you're feeling because of your desire to be loved and validated, you miss an opportunity to make that man your ally. What ends up happening is that man becomes your rival because now he feels like he has to defend himself in relation to your hurt. Okay? Ladies, this is why when y'all get into that expression and y'all start to say some things, y'all are hurting that man in ways that you can't currently see. And all he's saying in the back of his head, noted. Now I'm going to go to a place where I don't have to defend myself, a place where I don't have to earn respect, a place where respect can be given to me, a place where I don't have to be screened and I don't have to take 10 BGCSEs before I can find myself approved. You mean I could just walk into this space, be seen for who I am, be loved for who I am, and admired for what I am without having to prove myself first? Sign me up. I'll take the lifetime supply package, please. It's just that simple. Okay? And so men and women value the same things as worthy, which is love, respect, and honesty. We all value those the same. But the expression and procurement of these things are vastly different. What a woman does to secure love, respect, and honesty is very different than what a man does to secure love, respect, and honesty. And this is why I said that we cannot expect ourselves from our partner. Because if you think of a coin, heads and tails, the tail side of the coin cannot shift even a little bit without that affecting the head side. So it doesn't necessarily matter how much something values to you. If you don't see that value in relation to what someone else values, you will not see how your small changes to help, your small changes to motivate, is causing trauma and trouble for that man in ways that you cannot see. So when he rejects your help as the helpmate, you start to feel as though this man does not value you in his life. So guess what happens now? Survival mode. I'm about to be taken as no cock. You ain't about to see me as no woman, and you ain't about to treat me like I ain't got no value here because I know who I am. And so that woman turns on the heat. She becomes unrelenting on what it is she believes needs to happen, and she starts becoming very critical of what that man needs to do. And so she's accomplishing the rightness, but she's missing the opportunity to build intimacy. You can't build intimacy when the goal is to be right. Uh-oh. This is why we don't have the power to choose what people struggle with. We can either receive people as they are or reject them altogether. Not even God himself decided to choose what it is we struggle with. We have to bring our struggles to God and then want that change for ourselves. And so you cannot get consumed in what a person is and is not doing. You have to consume yourself with your own purpose so that when the opportunity for help presents itself, you can be there to receive it with a sound mind, with a loving heart, and with grace and gentleness. But sometimes we are so obsessed with trying to change any opportunity we get. It's almost like we want to kind of take everything we can take because we don't know if we're going to get that window of opportunity again, right? And so instead of dealing with the one thing that the man asks you to help him with, you start saying, well, baby, you know, it's also this other thing, and then it's also that thing, and then you see you always have a pattern of doing this, and I want to know why. And it's like, whoa, I really was just asking if there was another way I could do this. So we got to slow down. We got to slow our roll, okay?
Yeah.
A dismissal of these differences can make men feel very rejected and can create resentment, okay? So like physical wounds, this man will avoid what can aggravate the pain of rejection if he doesn't trust that his wife is fully receiving him. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
A woman doesn't necessarily have to receive another woman to be honest, but a man does. This is why you find that men are often so stoic, like I said in the beginning, because we value that safety of being able to think without being able to be without having to be prematurely pulled out of that. Okay? So let's talk about internalized rejection for a moment. Rejection for men can manifest in two types of self-esteem problems. Okay? The first type of problem is situational rejection, and the second type of problem is a funny word, characterological rejection, okay? Or identity rejection, or much more simply put, character rejection, okay? Situational rejection tends to show up in specific areas, okay? They're isolated. Like when That man is driving and he keep on hitting that hole. When ladies, you're wondering if he sees that car come into the corner and you feel like you need to say something because you don't trust if that man has seen it before you. That's situational rejection, okay?
Read a book.
He says, listen, man, you got me messed up. It's like, you don't think I born with two eyes just like you and I can't see that car coming to the corner just like you're seeing that? Why do you feel the need to reject my leadership with that comment? That's how he takes that, okay? That's situational rejection. Now, here's what you got to be careful of, ladies. These types of rejections often happen so fast, they can be missed if you're not cautious, okay? Because in your world as a woman, that's not rejection. That's I am trying to help. In the man's world, that is a type of rejection. And because that happens so quickly, we can move beyond that situation without fully resolving that or speaking to that or soothing that wound. And then we wonder, why is this man so standoffish to me? Why is this man so, is it something I did yesterday? Can't be that driving because I only be trying to show you what's going on. It can't be that. Well, don't think that your help is always helping, okay? Help is only help when a person is ready to receive it and when a person asks. And so remember, ladies, y'all are conquerors, okay? You have the ability to see situations unfolding before they even happen. Okay, that's what your intuition has been honed to do over these years. It says, this is a likely scenario. You draw from your experiences, you draw from your friends, you draw from your intelligence, you draw from your own inferences, and you say, listen, because I have a tendency to see things that happens, and via confirmation bias, it's always been right. You start to feel like this is a type of authority. So when you speak to things while you are attempting to help that man, you may be rejecting that man in minute ways or in what we call microaggressions that can sometimes pile up to an explosion. Okay? Yeah. That is what situational rejection is. Now let's talk about something more serious. Characterological rejection. Okay? Character rejection is when a person has had multiple negative experiences with someone or something where the patterns of rejection have become intertwined with their character as a type of flaw. Okay? So, ladies, I'll give a personal example. Trying to date, it's seeming like it's working well, and then it fails. Boom. The brain holds on to that. Trying to date again, trying to change your actions and behaviors, yet it still fails. Boom. The brain now has two things it's holding on to. You say, okay, third time's the charm. Got therapy with Harrison now, working on changing myself, putting myself out there to date. He seemed like a decent fella, and boom, it happened again. The brain starts to say, this pattern is a little undeniable here. So it elevates that pattern into a type of belief. A belief is a way of thinking that you no longer question, aka a characterological flaw. This is not a type of rejection that your love has the power to change in a man. Okay? You cannot love a man enough to deal with his own internalized flaws. Only a man can speak to that type of rejection in a man. This is why we need fathers. Okay? This is why we need that male presence in the home. Only a man can speak to how that man feels like he isn't enough. A woman can't speak to that. Only a man can speak to what he should and should not be doing in his career. A woman cannot speak to that. So when a woman tries to love her man into feeling better about his internalized flaws, he ends up taking that as you're patronizing me. You looking down on me. You pitying me. I don't need love right now. I need solution. You see? And so this is why you have to encourage your man to find circles of friends who are also of like mind or who are of what that man needs to be like. Because if he doesn't have those types of male influences, your love is not enough. Okay? So let's bring it home. What do men value? When a man has to speak on things that he hasn't had the opportunity to think about in the quiet of his mind via external pressure from his woman, he can't trust that what he says is accurately a reflection of what he believes. Okay?
That makes sense.
Yeah. But when a man is thinking, he isn't speaking, ladies. So you start to get the impression that he doesn't care about the things you care about. So now you have to feel this, you feel this kind of need to pull him out of that thinking to say, well, baby, it's been a week now. I need to know what's happening. You ain't talking to me. I get a funny vibe from you and you ain't saying nothing. What's up? Right? And yes, there's a part where that man has to be responsible and accountable to bring you up to speed on what's happening. But you need to understand his process is radically different than yours. Okay? This is why it is said that a woman's tongue has the power to cut that man down or to build him back up. Because a woman values emotional expression first. And when a woman is expressing her emotionality, she's not necessarily mindful of how that's coming across. If she's hurt, she's going to be in that hurt. She's going to speak from that hurt. She's going to remember that hurt. Her vocabulary is going to shift in relation to the depth of her pain. Because the honor code of a man is that things must work in a certain way. When you violate that honor code because you're saying things you don't necessarily mean, he takes it to heart and he feels rejected and hurt. Okay? And so selfishly trying to be loved when that man is just trying to be understood can turn you from being a helpmate into a I need to help you change. I need to help you see how to be more loving. I need to help you see how to be more mature. I need to help you see how to be more accountable. You ain't helping that man. It's not accomplishing what you think it's accomplishing, ladies. It's doing the opposite. Okay? Because there are women out there that are willing to receive your man just as he is today.
What?
And if he can go over there and feel like King Kong for free, if he could go over there and feel like King Kong for free, yes, it's wrong, but why would he not do it? Right? Y'all could pay $50 to come to me when you can get my same quality of service for free? Come on. It don't work that way. And so this is why we have to be very careful about expecting ourselves from other people. Because when you lean too heavily onto your feelings, ladies, you may not necessarily see that you're violating that man in certain ways, because it's not necessarily how you feel violated, it's how he does. All right? So I want to save some time for questions and dialogues, Emmy. That's pretty much the bulk of what it is I have to say today. I know we got some things to get through, but I hope that people receive what they needed to receive.
I feel attacked on behalf of my entire community and myself. Just want to say that I have some battle scars, I have some wounds, I have some internal bleeding that is taking place. So you said some heavy hitting things. Really, like a lot of what we try to do to be helpful is really not helpful. That we are really multiplying negative experiences, causing these patterns. And for a lot of women, like we really like we can see the danger we're doing, but we already passed that point of like I could stop this.
Yes.
So when we're in the danger zone, how do we retreat and start to fix the damage that we've done? Is it just not continuing to do it, or is there something that we can do?
Yeah, I think the principle of acceptance plays a very powerful role here. In this society, we view acceptance as a type of weakness and even settling, which is just not true. In order to see how to do meaningful work, we have to first accept where the work needs to be done. But how can we accept that there's work that needs to be done if we cannot see that we were in violation of something? So sometimes we have to humble ourselves and get off our righteous high horse and realize that separate and apart from the righteousness behind what we're doing, there's still a cause and effect. This has been identified as the number one reason why churches are dying, because we focus only on the righteousness of what we have to do, and we're not paying attention to the effect it's having on the people that we need to bring in. So the church ends up just becoming a museum where we speak to our own selves, where we look on the walls of the things that we have done, but we're not really healing people like in a hospital. The same is also true in our relationships. If we can't create an environment where people can feel free to have their feelings without being held in contempt of those feelings, people are not going to be open to vulnerability and intimacy. So it's just a matter of recognizing when the line has been crossed, taking a breather if you need to, stepping back if you need to, and asking yourself, what is the goal? Is the goal still to build intimacy, to build trust and vulnerability? or is the goal to get this man to feel like how I feel? Because even if you were able to accomplish that, what happens now? That's your man. You got to go back to him. This is the man that needs support. This is the man that you need support from. If you're constantly trying to prove who's right and who's wrong, someone has to lose.
Very true. So if I repeatedly would say, "What you doing? Watch the car." Do I just stop, or do I say to him, "Husband, I am so sorry, about my constant front seat driving or back seat driving." Do I have to acknowledge it, or do I just try to stop
You can
my
acknowledge
behavior?
what you do, right? But most of it
Okay.
seems like it's fickle. It's just an attempt. It's almost like it's just sorry for sorry's sake. It has to
Mm-hmm.
be a recognition that sometimes I place my needs and desires above the reality that I have to live in. Okay?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Sometimes we want things that our partner is just not able to immediately give us. And we start to suffer when we judge that as a personal attack on us instead of a limitation on who they are, right?
Mm-hmm.
We got to start viewing people not from the scope of love, because love is what I want, love is what I desire, but understanding is what you need. And if I'm the one with something to say to you, I have to choose to be inconvenienced by the nature of who you are. So
Mm-hmm.
before that woman ever gets down to the request, she has to spend a lot of time trying to figure out who is this person I am asking this request of? What's his ways, his nature? Who was he at the point of this relationship? And am I still viewing him as that? Or am I viewing him as who I think he should be at this point? Because
Mm-hmm.
those are not the same things.
Yeah.
Okay? And so I think a healthy realization and separation of the two would be paramount to kind of helping women slow down a little bit when it comes to that request bombardment.
Very true. Someone says most oftentimes we're trying to fix someone else and take the same approach from every relationship on the next person. We need to learn the new person. That
Yes.
is very true. We need to learn the person that we are with and take every single individual as a unique individual. Now, you mentioned the power of male relationships and men speaking into men,
Yes.
but often a lot of men don't want to speak to men. They don't want to share what they may be going through in their marriages. And I found that quite a few husbands, in fact, you know, take that age old advice of, what happens in our marriage stays in our marriage, and they don't seek any outside help, especially from other men. So they never get spoken into. Now, I know also wives identify this and they see it and they're like, I want you to go out with your friends. I want you to like talk to your friends, but they're not doing it. So again, we see a need and we're trying to speak to that need, but then we're coming off as, just causing more trauma.
Right.
So
Right.
how do we have that conversation to say, hey, I think you could benefit from some male friendships. Go make a friend or go talk to this friend that you have or go talk to your dad or your brother or your cousin, you know, have a relationship.
Yeah. It's difficult, man, Zemi, because of two things. Number one, a lot of men are not walking in their purpose. And so a lot of men are idly trying to find things that can get them ahead. So if this is what the majority of people are struggling with, there's not going to be a lot of opportunities where that type of conversation, that type of meaningful interaction is going to happen. So a lot of times it does feel like I'm having to force this narrative on you. The second thing is that as a helpmate, you can't help that man if something isn't already happening.
Mm-hmm.
You can't be the first step in that marathon. It has to
Oh,
be
that's
him.
good. That's a good point.
And yeah, a lot of times, because like I said earlier, a woman is a conqueror. She has the ability to see what steps a man should take, how he should take it, what he should do at the next intersection, and that, and so on and so forth. And
Mm-hmm.
so a woman oftentimes would bring that knowledge back from step five when that man is only on step one. And you're giving him all of this information that is really beneficial. But if his cup is only as big as this mug, and you have a gallon's water worth of information to pour into him, he can't take more than this. And
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't matter the quality of information that you're putting in. It doesn't matter how you soften the truth. It doesn't matter how you approach him before sex, after sex. His capacity is what limits your ability to be effective in his life. So only a man can speak to this capacity. Because where we are from as men, it's all about what we do in the world. And what we do in the world is not necessarily about how we feel. It's about who we have to be and what we have to do. And so a man values the opinion of a man in that respect more than a woman. Not that a woman can't be effective, but his internalized rejection of himself will also end up being a rejection of what that woman is giving. And so this is why I say we need to have more male on male interactions in terms of conversations and seminars. But there's not a lot of men who are doing these things. And so
Yeah.
some of it is just the cost of life where we are.
Mhm.
And we have to acknowledge this when it comes to our relationships so that we don't step outside of what we can and cannot control.
That's very good. I get all the time, that there's so many ministries for women and there's not enough stuff for men. And, it's, I don't know, would men even seek it out if it existed? I don't know. I asked my husband, would you follow a page? I don't think he would.
Right,
So, it's crazy. Like, we just have to do our part on our end to equip the women,
right.
and hopefully our men land on your page or pages like yours, and they get something that sticks, or even in a conversation like this they may overhear something that sticks. But I just want everyone to know we've heard that plight and we
Right.
try, but we still
Yeah,
have an audience that we have to equip, even though the other side may not exist or be as prevalent as you may desire.
definitely.
But I'll go into some of the questions that I did receive. And then first one is here that my husband often feels blamed or internalizes negative feedback as him failing. How do I counter this? And you kind of talked about that a little bit, about like him needing the interaction. But let's go into like the why. Why does he view the feedback as a blame response? What would
Yeah.
make him feel blamed?
Well, if I had to kind of uh, fix this into a very cliche concept, right? Men are from Mars and women are from Venus.
Mm-hmm.
On Mars, there's a lot of skyscrapers. Okay, there's a lot of monuments. There's a lot of stone erections. There's a lot of marble carvings to talk about what we do. And everywhere you see men wearing uniforms as a declaration of our competence, as a declaration of who we believe we are in society.
Mm-hmm.
On Venus, there's no skyscrapers, but there's a lot of rooms. There's a lot of places to sit. There's a lot of places to hang out. And that's because women value relationship more than valuing what we do in this world, right? Not that women don't value what they do and not that men don't value relationship, but it seems like we have different inclinations. And so when a woman values relationship first, she values that ability to be able to live in her truth, to live in what is real for her emotionally. But a man is not able to live in that. A man gains his value from what he is able to do and produce with his hands. So where a woman gains her validation from the status of her relationships, the man gains his worth from what he produces in this world. So this is why when men come into conflict with what they are producing, their first response is to view that as a negative interaction.
Mm-hmm.
So you got to understand it's about momentum. It's about recognizing what is happening and what is good about this relationship and making that the focal point. And what should allow that to kind of be capped is your acceptance of who that man is and who he isn't. But a lot of women never start with that acceptance. A lot of women take out a loan. They say, okay, you're 50% done. I'll marry you, but I'll marry you on the conditions that you should be changed in about 2 years, right?
Oh yeah.
So she becomes tolerant of who she is, but she never accepts him. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
And that tolerance starts to drain and wane over time because it's like, you still ain't changed yet? Harrison, for God's sake, it's been 3 years. And it's like, it's been 3 years in this relationship and it's been a lifetime for me. This is who I am.
Yeah.
So we have to ask ourselves once again, have we fallen in love with the romanticized version of who our man is? Or have we kept ourselves accountable to the truth of who he is in this world? Because those are not the same things. And if you have fully accepted who your man is, what you are requesting of him should be in his wheelhouse. Not what you feel, not what you judge. What you are requesting of him should be in his wheelhouse.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? This is why God says when we pray to him, when we pray according to his will for our lives, our requests should make sense.
Yeah.
This is not just God, I want a Lamborghini. This is not just God, I want to be a millionaire. It's God, I'm actively seeking your will for my life. And if my request is in alignment with your will, it will be done. So
Mm-hmm.
if your request for that man is in alignment with who he is, it will be done. But a lot of y'all don't love your husbands. Y'all love who y'all think he is. Y'all don't love your boyfriends. Y'all love who y'all think he is. And the man feels the pressure to fulfill who you think he is. That's why he will kill himself in quiet before ever telling you the truth, because he knows he has to provide on what you think he is. And so what happens a lot of times is that type of conflict is almost the result of years of buildup. Years of
Mm-hmm.
one person expecting something that they shouldn't, and a year's worth of a man trying to become something he can't. We got to crush that system and realize that it starts with vulnerability. Can I present my truth? Can my truth be received? And can we allow ourselves to make this the foundation of our relationship instead of making this a temporary thing that will change over time? And I don't know if a lot of people do that, Zemi.
That's really good. And I think it works very well in the majority of cases, but we do get some false advertising out there that
Yeah,
makes us believe that we're getting XYZ. We're falling in love with XYZ. We've seen you continue XYZ for year one, year two, maybe even year three, and we're expecting XYZ for the rest of our foreseeable lives.
facts.
But XYZ was not you. XYZ was what you thought we needed,
Yeah.
based on your experiences in multiple relationships. And so we are left with ABC that does not interconnect with our vision.
Mhm.
So that is the plight of a number of people, some of them on this call right now, that they got false advertising. But I think if they started, or if we start where you originally said, Lord, let my desires for my life align with your desires, and praying God's will, we can avoid ABC not equaling XYZ. But that's all I'll say about that, because that's not the topic of tonight. Um, so number two, what should I do when my man is silent? You kind of talked about this as well. A lot of women have a problem with this, in
Yeah.
what to do in that in between time of his thinking, his thought process, and me really having that urgency to just get over with it. Like, I don't want to stay mad at you. So what should I do in the meantime, between time, while you need to have some time in your man cave?
Right.
So ideally, in a perfect world, what would you like your wife to do while you think?
Yeah. So, support is different for a lot of people, and support is not always the rectifying of the issue. Sometimes support is just hearing the issue out, or
Mm-hmm.
even, just venting and then allowing that man to still maintain autonomy over how he deals with that issue. Now, of course, women hope that the decisions he makes will be in consideration of her and how she feels.
Mm-hmm.
Because a woman's desire is to help her man. If she is sitting across from a man who is visibly hurt, who is visibly in turmoil, her desire to help that man is going to wreak havoc on who she is. And men oftentimes don't create enough entrances for our women to have an effect on us. It's almost as if we want to present the solution to you instead of inviting you in as a part of the solution creating process, right?
Yes.
And that's something that is almost, I don't want to say it's a flaw of our design, but when you understand the biblical version of how a man was designed, right? If God is giving the vision to the man, he has to make sure that that vision is protected. Wouldn't you agree?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And if that vision could easily be accessed by things that are happening in that man's environment, distractions, emotions, then God can't entrust that man with the vision. So he's a little stubborn as a result of that. But the helpmate, right? The helpmate is supposed to be something that the man values. The helpmate is supposed to be something that the man sees as able to assist him in what he is doing. And so 90% of the times, the reasons why this is happening is because of a tumultuous history, where one time or another we were trying to get our needs met, and instead we were received with criticism or rejection.
Yeah.
So it's almost like we have survival culture
Mm-hmm.
because we both have lost faith that this relationship is looking out for us equally. We have to take our own needs into our own hands.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of us don't want to reassess our history and see if that's what's been happening. Because a man isn't going to reject the woman that he took on as his wife unless something happened. The only time that will happen is when the man wasn't fully prepared for marriage or a serious relationship, and because of his desire to be something else, he kind of shot a little aggressively for something he wasn't ready for. And now that
Mm-hmm.
woman is paying the price because she trusted and loved him. So we got to ask ourselves, which one was it? Is it that we have had a history that is speaking very loud to the point where we can't see what's currently happening? Or was it that that man asked you to be his wife, or he engaged you in a serious relationship and he was underprepared for what that meant? We can sum this up very easily by asking the question of inconvenience. How ready were you to be inconvenienced by the cost of love at the time your relationship got serious? A lot of us don't think that love is supposed to hurt, but it does. And a relationship is not supposed to protect you from that pain. A relationship is the acknowledgement that I'm choosing to be hurt by you. Not intentionally, but because your nature is what it is.
Yeah.
If I don't choose to be inconvenienced by the needs of my wife, when my wife's needs show up, I will reject them.
Mm-hmm.
But if I have chosen to be inconvenienced by my wife's needs, when her needs show up, I understand, I'm prepared. I may not always know what that is, but I am prepared to receive whatever it is. And so you think about it nowadays. If you were forced to do something and you didn't choose that something, whether it was a sacrifice or a compromise, you are less likely to have a great experience with that sacrifice. And so we
Yeah.
have to reevaluate. Were we ready to be inconvenienced by who our partner was and to pay the price of love, which is pain? Or did we assume that this love was going to prevent pain?
That's good. And that's a hard pill to swallow, but a necessary one.
Yeah.
Um, I have one more question here that well, could be two, but we'll see with how time permits. So one is, how can men improve their response to avoid rejection or kind of immunize themselves against this rejection sensitivity response? So they
Yeah.
kind of
So,
toughen up emotionally, so they know that we're just, trying to help, but we don't mean it that way.
yeah.
But how can that happen?
I love starting off with a very simple statement. It's okay to not be okay.
Mm-hmm.
Both partners have to agree with that. Okay? If it is not okay to not be okay, then that means we're trying to solve the emotional problem, which is how we feel. Okay? You cannot solve that problem. You will feel how you feel, but you have to learn to make different decisions in spite of how you feel. Okay? That's why you have to accept that it's okay to not be okay. What this does, Zemi, is it allows us to stay present in our emotional issues. Most people don't know how to stay present in uncomfortable emotions. So they instinctively try to find happiness in every situation. But the relentless pursuit of happiness prematurely takes us out of uncomfortable situations so that we don't even see the problem anymore for what it is. The solution to every situation is not to be happy. Sometimes the solution to certain situations is just management. And we have to
Yeah.
stop trying to inject positivity onto very uncomfortable things emotionally. Okay? Because we don't have the power to change how we feel. We only have the power to change how we respond to how we feel. And so, what men need to understand here, right? Take a chicken right out the fridge. There's light seasoning and then there's heavy seasoning. And while your tongue may not necessarily need all of that garlic and salt and black pepper, maybe a woman does. And fellas, you gotta learn how to show more emotions for things that can negatively impact your wives and girlfriends so that they can feel seen and heard, so that they can become more of what you need. Because guess what, guys? When your woman does not feel loved, she has a tendency to act disrespectfully towards you. And when you feel disrespected, fellas, you have a tendency to act unlovingly towards your woman. This
Cycle.
is a cycle, and we have the power to change this cycle by simply changing how we are responding to our own emotional state. So I don't need my wife for a lot of things, but I choose to be inconvenienced by needing her, by involving her in things, by showing her that I value her opinion, by showing her that I value her perspective. Because even though I may be able to do it on my own, I am creating intimacy when I give my wife access to me. And by
Yeah.
giving my wife access to me, she becomes more of what I need from her. And I feel like if men can just do that, if we can invite our women in understanding that they love us, that they're not out to hurt us and to kill us, but that they really want to see us grow, we can thrive in our relationships in different ways that we've never experienced before.
That's really good. And I'm going to replay this and write all my notes all over again in my journal because this is really, really good information. We didn't talk a lot about sex, but rejection and sex is a big one. So we can close with that as our final question. There's this common view that married women don't want to have sex. I don't think that is true. We won't have time to get into that. Next month, we talk about sex and intimacy. But if a woman does not want to have sex tonight, she may be tired, whatever reason, the approach, whatever it is.
Right.
How can she let him down gently without harming his ego or invoking this rejection response?
Use your hands. That's how. That's how you let that man down. No. That's my ratchet answer. The more appropriate answer is we have to understand that, okay, if a relationship is built on the agreement of inconvenience, that means that at any given point in time, someone who often finds themselves emotionally high is going to have to come down to the middle. Someone who finds themselves emotionally low is going to have to rise up to the middle. Okay? Regardless of what we have to do, we have to make sure that we are working on what we have to work on to get to the middle ground. Okay? So it's often that men are more sexual in their relationships than women. Not that that's always the case, but that's usually what happens. And so a man is having to regulate, how does he come down from that? If a woman who's going through a lot, she just had a baby, she's challenged with a lot of things, it's not going to be easy for her to be sexually ready. So she has to do more to come up to that level. And this is the Venn diagram of compromise. We're not trying to get everything we want. We're just trying to improve on that. Okay? Because if we're trying to get everything we want, that means that someone is going to have to do without, and that's just not healthy. But yet again, we have to understand we don't get to pick and choose the nature of who our partners are. And this is why we got to have these hard conversations before we get into this serious commitment. Because I don't want to meet your sales representative for the first 6 to 10 months who's talking to me about all of the perks of this vehicle and how this vehicle got 500 horsepower. And then it's like when the vehicle reaches my driveway, it's like, what the hell is this?
Yep.
I didn't know what it is. Right? This looks radically different from the online picture. So we got to have those hard conversations. But number 2, we have to understand that even in our boundary setting, right, which is what no is, that's a type of boundary. A boundary is not a punishment, okay? We always have to remember this golden rule. If my partner cannot connect to the love that I have for them, even when I say no, then my approach is not appropriate for who that person is, okay? If at any point in time I am communicating to my wife a no, and she cannot see the love I have for her, I am not choosing to be inconvenienced enough by who my wife is. And I got to tailor that. It's not just about saying no because you don't like it. Remember now, we chose to be inconvenienced by the nature of who our partner is. If you were a single person, you wouldn't have to care about this. But because you are a committed person, you have to understand that even when you are setting your boundaries, they're going to have a consequence. Now, though boundaries may hurt, hurt is not harm. Okay? Hurt
So
is
boundaries
not
may hurt. Hurt is not harm.
Yes. Hurt is just what happens when we don't get what we thought we were going to get. You don't die from that. Okay? But when you don't learn to receive limitations, when you don't learn to tailor your expectations, that hurt very quickly becomes harm. Harm is when you believe that you deserve something and then you can't get it. Harm is when you start to become toxic, is when you start to become passive aggressive. Obviously, is when you start stepping out of your relationship. Because what you have to do to secure your needs now is going to harm. And harm is broken trust. Harm is infidelity. Harm is betrayal. Harm is rejection of self, not just of the thing, but of you.
Yeah.
That's very, very dangerous. And so we have to remember that boundaries are a part of every healthy relationship. But your partner should always be able to see the love you claim to have for them, even when you are saying no.
Excellent. Excellent, excellent, excellent presentation. I love how you can think on your feet and talk so slowly and eloquently. Did they teach that in undergrad?
No, man. You know what I think it is? I think it's a gift of gab, because I've always been this kind of person who has been interested in helping people. And I
Mhm.
choose whatever it is I do, I choose to be inconvenienced by who my audience is. So I
Mhm.
can take the same presentation and give it to kids. I can give it to teenagers. I can give it to
Yeah.
adults, married couples, divorced couples, because it's not about the content, it's about my audience. And I don't
Mhm.
think a lot of people take the time to be inconvenienced by who they're speaking to. And so we get caught up in what we think we're accomplishing. Whole time it's not having that effect. And so, the cadence of my words and the way in which I say things and I use pauses,
Mhm.
it's all to help people understand, hey, this is a takeaway. And it's those nuances and cues in the environment that makes the reception of messages so much more clear. And so if we could apply that to our relationships, now the benefit of the doubt starts to take over.
Yes, excellent, excellent. And even that tip, we have some people who want to be speakers one day, so that would be very helpful for them. I have put your contact details at the bottom. You can go ahead and read them off. So, email if you want to book a session. I don't know the starting price, but I'm sure it's going to be worth your money. It's hthompson@managingrelationships.org. So you can email questions, follow ups if you want to book a session. For Instagram, you're gonna say it because it's going super fast for me.
Yeah, it's
H
HT, the number
HT for
four,
real.
for
Yes.
real. Yeah. And if you want a direct line, I don't know if you have the numbers, the office numbers are 356-7983-4 or 5.
3567983.
Yeah, 356-7983, three five
Okay.
six seven nine eight four, and 7985.
Awesome. Awesome. And then Harrison Thompson official over on Facebook. He posts great content over there, a lot of thought provoking posts, a lot of things that you can share and munch on all day, all week. So we thank you so much for gracing the Wife Her platform. My name is Zemi Stewart. Guys, you can follow us across all social media and please subscribe to our YouTube channel. We're trying to grow. So definitely head over there. It's just Wife Her Ministry. So thank you, Harrison. Have a great night, and we hope to have you back again soon.
Thank you for having
Bye.
me, Jamie. Take care, everybody.